Hi, welcome to the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and my guest tonight is Sharon Good. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Laurie.
I've had Sharon on other shows before, and Sharon's been a coach longer than I have, right? How long have you been a coach?
Since 97, so it's a
way
little over
longer.
16 years
I like to
now.
think that I discovered it in 2004, but I really didn't. And she's been around for a long time at coaching. And you do some coaching at NYU.
I teach at NYU, among other places. I train coaches, and I do some classes at the 92nd Street Y for the general public.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. All kinds of exciting things. So I'm thrilled that we finally got to reconnect and do this again. Plus, believe it or not, we're neighbors. So she lives a few floors above me, and it's like, come on, you got to be on the show. And she finally said yes. So we're thrilled. So what this show is all about, it's about the fantastic points of view coaching game. And this is a game that has a series of 65 cards with exquisite photography and a word at the bottom. And the whole point of the cards is to bring right brain and left brain thinking together so that you come up with some amazing, never before had thoughts. And that's a pretty good thing to come up with. And what I usually do is let my guests choose which card sings to them. So the card that Sharon chose is Just Be. And what you'll see is it's a guy, well, you know what? Assumption. It's a person in jeans. And we were both talking about what we had on, and it's like we're kind of just being with our outfits today. But it's just being. It's like nothing special, not dressed to impress or any of that. So that's what that's going to be the theme of the show today. And I'm going to ask Sharon, first of all, what made you choose Just Be?
Because I have a hard time doing it, of course.
It's called a challenge, yes.
Yeah. I went through the different cards, and I tend to be a very introspective person. You know, I think a lot about life and how to make things work better. So I've thought a lot about a lot of the different choices in the book. But Just Being is something that still challenges me. I'm a heavy-duty doer. And it's hard. There's always more things to be done, and it's so hard for me to just find time to just be, not either doing something or worrying about something. So I thought it would be fun to explore that today.
I love that because my goal, one of my goals for 2014 is to just slow it down, and you talk a doer. It's like if I've got 2 minutes and somebody says, can you do it? It's like, yeah, I can do it in 2 minutes, you know. It's like, remember that game, Name That Tune? I can do it in 3 notes. I can do it in 2 minutes, and it'll get all done. But to you, when you say just be, what does that mean for you?
Well, I mean, the image that comes to mind is kind of just sitting there, not being actively engaged in something. You know, maybe some thoughts rolling by, but just kind of being in the moment, maybe appreciating what's going on, looking out the window and seeing the beautiful sky, or just enjoying breathing, and just being there without having to be active or in action.
You know, I think that's even a bigger challenge today with iPods and iPhones and there's so many distractions that, and you know, and I barely answer my cell phone. It's like, one, I don't hear it, and so but two, it's like if I go out and I have the phone with me, but if I'm out, it's usually to get away from the computer, to get away from the phone. I just want to be outside and I want to be aware. But I am amazed at how many people just can't travel through the city without their cell phone and talking on it. And I was in the waiting room of Beth Israel yesterday to talk about just being. I just beed for 8 hours and almost lost my mind. But everybody in there had cell phones, and nobody could just sit. Now, neither could I. I had a book, but it was just like, it's amazing. I think the challenge is getting bigger and bigger. We're afraid to disconnect, and I wonder why.
I don't know. I think there's a sense, there's so much information out there, and you know, videos and audios and reading material, that there's always this sense that if you're not constantly doing something, that you're going to miss out on something.
Yeah. And I have a friend who, she will just, those links, when you're on the computer and it's link here and link here, she does that all day long, and bless her heart, she sends you stuff that's pertinent to you, and it's like, and she says, I have to stop this, and it's like, you do. It's like, it's just so much information out there. It's just ad infinitum. It goes on and on. Well, what if you had your just be druthers? Do you know what a druther is?
I know what a druther is. Yes.
Okay. I'll tell those who
Am I
aren't
dating
from
myself?
who aren't from the South. A druther is an abbreviated form of I'd rather. So if you had your druthers on a just be, what would you do?
Okay. Well, I think sometimes, being in New York City, I'm a city girl, and I love everything that the city has to offer.
Me too.
But I think sometimes, not necessarily today when it's 30 degrees, but to be out in the park, someplace in a natural setting with a garden. I was thinking with a book, but we're putting that aside.
No book.
Taking a walk, maybe like going to the botanical garden and just walking around and looking. I love taking pictures of things also, just so having a camera and just kind of taking pictures of things as I go.
Catching the moment, yeah.
So that's what comes to mind, being like at the botanical garden or the zoo, and just, putting away the mechanical devices other than the camera, and just kind of going wherever you're led to go without an agenda.
Wow. Yeah. I think if I had to pick one, I think the ocean calls me, just because I think it's puts everything in perspective, and there's a rhythm, and it's like, but it's, I know, like, I'm from Maryland, and I go to Ocean City, Maryland, and when I do, it's like I'm on the beach at 7 in the morning with a cup of coffee, just sitting there, and as soon as the kids and the families come, then I'm out of there, and it's like, I'm done with the beach for the day. But I think if I had that, but now I'll ask you the same question. I know my answer. If you had your little botanical garden and you could live in a bucolic farmland setting, would you?
Well, that's where the city girl comes in again. I love it. I mean, I'm fortunate that for my apartment, I have a gorgeous sky view.
She does.
So I see I call it the skyscape.
It's beautiful.
So
and Casey on Facebook,
she'll
she'll do a picture outside my window. It's beautiful. It's it's on the 32nd floor, and it looks north, right?
I look north, so you can see the
Beautiful.
city, but then it's just big, vast sky, and it looks different every day, different weather and everything.
Yeah.
So I feel that's my little bit of nature. But I think if I was away from all that the city has to offer, I would feel isolated, because I love going to the theater, and I love the museums, and I love the restaurants. I love walking around the city streets.
It's interesting because I actually had a condo down in Ocean City, Maryland once, and I got there like, I'm going to say 4 times a year. It was like, by the time you get in the car, and I was like, oh, okay. So it was just like, and when I was there, I think I told you before, I have a 3-day limit, and then it's like, get me out of here. I need to be in the city. But I'm thinking for you and for me, you and me, sorry. I'm thinking that maybe the just being is really, really essential if we want to continue to live the crazy New York City life,
Well, you know what it is, something I said before kind of spontaneously, which is the word of the day, is doing it without an agenda. Because I tend to always be going somewhere. Like, I'm walking on the city streets, but I'm always going somewhere. But to be able to just go out and walk without having to be anywhere, to go wherever I want. If I want to go over to the Hudson River, or if I want to go up to the park, or go into a shop and browse.
Just doing it. Really, I'm very serious, and I'm so glad you chose the card, because that's my goal too. It's just, I look at my calendar and I go, wow, who did this? And I did it, I don't have a social secretary, and it's, and I think I'm just driven, and it's like, okay, there's, 30 minutes, I can do something with that, rather than just, and not just being like, sometimes I'll indulge in a computer game, and then it's like, that is such a waste of time. It's just, it stops your brain, but for what,
Well, the odd thing is I do that too, but I always have music on in the background, so for me, it's almost kind of keeping my hands busy while I enjoy the music. Because for me to just sit still and listen to music, my body wants to get up and do something. So if I'm doing computer games while I'm listening to the music, then I can kind of enjoy the music and just kind of do the computer games mindlessly.
I'm beginning to wonder, is just be a realistic goal? I don't know. Can we just be? And are we saying that, like, people who live in Omaha, is it easier for them to just be? I don't know.
That's a good question.
You know?
Well, I also see my mother who's 91, and she doesn't have the mental capacity to do things anymore. So sometimes she just sits and looks out the window and just watches things going by. She lives out in the suburbs. So she's just being.
She really?
Yeah.
Maybe,
So,
maybe we have to get a little older. No, I want to do it right now, now. But they had some fantastic quotes in here because not only do you get the wonderful card, but there's also a story, which is sometimes it happens to be a Zen story for just be, or a Sufi folk story, or all kinds of. There's something appropriate.
Or a quote from Winnie the Pooh.
Yes, quotes and coaching questions. So, what does Winnie the Pooh have to say?
Winnie the Pooh has to say, don't underestimate the value of doing nothing, of just going along, listening to all the things you can't hear, and not bothering. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh is maybe like the model for this, because it's like so laid back, just kind of eat the honey.
Really,
hang out with your friends.
It's all good, and just go. I think, is that the quote where what day is it today? It's to. No, what is it today? And it's today, my favorite day. And it's, oh, that's my favorite day. It's just like, okay, just go with the flow. I like that.
Winnie the Pooh does not have a smartphone, you notice.
No. And probably not a computer either. And probably wouldn't be caught dead playing a computer game. So Winnie might have it going on. It's like, I know Sharon wrote a book. Is it a book or a workbook? The Tortoise?
It's called the Tortoise Workbook, Strategies for Getting Ahead at Your Own Pace. It's for people who are time or energy challenged.
Yes, I think we should all pick up a copy of that. Yes, and I kind of like what I always loved it, because it's like, it's kind of embrace. If this is your style, go with it. Don't, if you're not an A personality, I guess, is that what it is?
Type A,
where you just have to do it. If that's your style, is anything wrong with procrastinating?
Well, that's a really good question. We were kind of talking about this on the way here, that sometimes you just have so many things to do that it's hard to just relax, because you're always thinking, what else should I be doing? And also as a self-employed person, am I making enough money? Should I be out marketing some more?
Yeah.
So there's sort of that little kind of fear/worry, am I doing enough?
Yeah. Always, yeah. And now I've got this age thing going on. It's like, you know what? You're not getting any younger. You better do this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, but you're also making yourself very old because you're tired. So it's got to be a medium somewhere. So what were some of the strategies? Did you try in that book? Were you slowing people down, or were you just getting them to appreciate the fact that they were moving at a slower pace?
Well, it's both. It's kind of embracing who you are, as you said, and also using strategies that you don't have to be running around all the time. First of all, it's having realistic goals,
right? So
that you're not overloading yourself, and kind of putting systems in place. Doing calendars. I actually just this year I have a long to-do list, but I'm always keeping certain things in my head. So now I put a new thing in place. Now on Sunday nights I have a calendar that has all the different projects down the left, and then Monday through Friday. And I put in specific things that have to be done on specific days, so it's out of my head. I just look at my calendar, and I don't have to think about it. So that helps with the worry.
So you time your to-do list.
You
schedule your to-do list.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just a long to-do list where I need to look at it. But then if specific things have to be done, it's on that calendar, and it's just 2 pages. I see it right in front of me.
Yeah, I have the calendar on the wall because I always want to know at a glance. And what's funny is, as I'm doing that, I'll be waiting for people's Google Calendar to charge up, and I'm sitting here with the pencil going, okay, when are we doing this? I like seeing it in writing in black and white. That makes me feel comfortable. Yeah, sure. And what's happened is I've started a new venture where in order to, I have to keep a Google calendar. So now that's 3 calendars I'm keeping. And it is making me so crazy just to have to schedule, and then I have to remember to schedule it over here and schedule it over there. And it's like just insane. So again, scheduling can take you over the edge too, but it's just like, I like that idea of scheduling your to-do list. It's like, what are the benefits of procrastinating?
Okay. I actually heard this story from a coach named Jamie Smart, where he had a workshop that they were setting up, and they were doing the marketing for it, and his staff asked him to do a particular thing to market the workshop, and he was putting it off, and it just wasn't happening. And then one day he got an idea, he executed it in 5 minutes and got 10 more people in the workshop. So what he said was, sometimes what looks like procrastination turns out to be wisdom.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm not procrastinating, I'm thinking, I'm getting it together.
So sometimes kind of tuning into your inner feelings about this, is the right this the right time for this? Because a lot of times I feel like, I just want to get things done and get them off my to-do list, but sometimes it's not the right time. Like, I haven't really made the decision yet, and I don't want to rush and make a decision without... I'm very intuitive, so for me, it's like when it feels right inside, and then take the action. So in that, I think that's a case where procrastination can be a positive thing.
It can be. I mean, I think if you keep missing deadlines, then you have to say, okay, something, I need to change. I need to tweak it here and there. But I agree. I worked for Trinity Church for a while, and I learned procrastination, because you take something to a priest and they're going to pray about it, they're going to mull it over, they're going to talk to the congregation, and by the time it was done, the problem had been solved, and it was like, okay, let me slow down here, because they obviously are on to something. It's like, we'll think about it, and if it's still there, then we'll deal with it. So I learned that.
Well, that's the funny thing, is there are some things that if you just do whatever you can and just leave it alone, they just kind of get solved.
Yes. And sometimes it's good not to push and pull and try to direct something, to that control freak thing. I find one of my favorite sayings is just get out of the way and let the universe do its thing. If you would just stop trying to control everything and just let the natural flow, then and trust that you can deal with it. And I think that's where coaches come in, because it's like to teach you that you can deal with almost anything that comes along. You just have to have the wherewithal and the confidence.
And you talked about the issue of getting older. That's one thing I've discovered as I've gotten older, is that I just don't have the energy to muscle through things all the time and force them to happen. So just out of lack of energy, I've had to just kind of back off and just let things happen at their own pace, do what I can. Some things, like I said, resolve automatically. Yeah. And then just take action where I need to.
Right. These are all great Just Be lessons. You're teaching, I know you're teaching a great workshop Monday, but this show will air after that. And also one coming up. What are the 2 workshops you're teaching?
Yes, these are a couple of workshops that I do at the 92nd Street Y. One is called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. And that is for people who... Okay, come.
Okay.
That is for people who want to look for a new career path and they just have no idea how to go about it, or they're stuck, or their thought process are getting jumbled in their head. So I teach sort of a very simple process for looking at the different pieces that you need to look at in order to come up with a new career idea. And then I'm doing a new one April 28th called Moving Gracefully into Your Next Stage of Life.
Whatever that is, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. So this is going to be, how do you deal with changes and transitions, whatever phase of life it is. So it could be a 21-year-old or a 65-year-old. Or somebody who's just getting married, or having their first child, or possibly
changing
a loss.
Careers, loss,
changing
definitely.
Careers, all kinds of changes. So it'll be kind of fun just to give some tips and exercises and some good tools that people can work with.
Fantastic. And that's at the 92nd Street Y.
Yes.
Open to the public.
It is.
Where would they find out about that?
The website is 92y.org.
Okay.
And you can also get a calendar, or you can stop by there if you're in the neighborhood. They have a lot of fabulous things there, and their prices are quite reasonable. So if you feel interested in either of those, and I will be doing What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do again, probably in the summer. Okay. So it will be available again. So check it out. They have all kinds of wonderful things there. If you come, just tell me you saw me on this program. It would be great to meet you.
So now we have your website on the bottom. Is it? Would they find it on your website? Your schedule of what you're doing?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
good.
I have a
Okay.
page of
Yeah.
classes. I also have a link to my publishing page if you want to check out the tortoise book.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that you have other books out too, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tortoise just rang a bell
Yeah.
with me because it's like it was a whole new concept because it was like, oh, there's a benefit, and it's like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
She's got a whole workbook on it and how to relax, and if you are, if you're moving along, and I think the deal is if you're just putting one foot in front of the other, you're getting
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually a cute little cartoon I've seen where you see a tortoise walking along, and then there's a snail kind of plodding along, and it looks at the tortoise and says, "You maniac." So it's all relative.
It's all relative. Absolutely. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, there's another interesting quote in here from Hugh Prather, who I think is a humorist, and he says, "Perhaps if I were not afraid to be myself, I would be a natural joker. A humorous retort might be flickering in my mind, but the fear of what people might think stops me from saying what comes to mind." So that's another form of not being yourself. It's like thinking, okay, well, you know what? We almost did that today with our outfits. We were going to go, oh, we're going to be on the show. We should have jackets on. And then we went, but the theme is just be. Right. And we both ended, no, we didn't plan it, but we both ended up with, it's cold, and we ended up with sweaters. So it's like, okay, so it's like, we don't care. No, we do care what you think, but it was like, it was being what we wanted to be for this show. So, yeah, I think it's also that the just be is like, not only just being yourself, but also not camouflaging, some of your authenticity, just because you're worried about what people are going to think if you say something wrong. Or
yeah, and I think for me that's one of the things I like to work on in coaching is help people to find out who they authentically are.
Yeah.
Not what other people want them to be or what they think they should be, but who they are authentically, and then how they want to express that in their career and their life.
Right. Yeah. And what there's so much I don't know, there's so much pressure, and I because I do mentor coaching a lot, and these, everybody's looking for, oh my God, what is my niche, and how am I going to market it, and who am I going to be? And I go, you know what, be what feels comfortable to you, because if not, it's going to come off inauthentic, and nobody's going to want to be around you anyway.
Or you're going to draw the wrong clients to you.
Yeah, and then you won't be able to help them anyway. Or you're going to be uncomfortable helping them all the time. That's a good point. Yeah. If you put out there that, sure, I can help you make $1 million, and that's not really, like, I'm not motivated by money, so I can't help you make $1 million. So, but somebody could.
Yeah, I do a lot of mentor coaching also, and I also do work with a lot of creative coaches. And of course, if
they're everywhere, it's hard to harness it, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's what you want.
Exactly.
I encourage people to express themselves in their websites, because if you're looking for a creativity coach, you don't want an institutional-looking website.
No, with little neat boxes and
yeah, and all buttoned up with suits. I encourage them to use their own artwork, to write their own copy, to just really express themselves on their websites.
Oh, that's interesting. I wasn't aware that you did a lot of creativity coaching or creative coaches, because that's there's a two-pronged knife, is that what it's called? No, a fork, I guess. But whatever. One is that you want to capture all that energy and get it going in, but you don't want to stifle it. So it's like you have to constantly feed it and then bring it in and feed it, and so that must be a real challenge to. And where does the just be come in on that one?
I think it's just having people, and kind of going back to being comfortable being yourself. What I see a lot of times is there's a lot of marketing gurus out there now, telling coaches and other people how to do their websites, and they have formulas.
Yes.
And I actually had a client who was working with a marketing specialist, and she was procrastinating on writing the copy, and we talked about it, and it turned out that what he was asking her to do was not authentic for her.
But she didn't realize that, but she knew instinctively something wasn't right.
Something was right. So, we just talked about it, and I kind of gave her permission to do what felt right with her, whether it was, to just kind of, assert herself with this person, or just not work with him anymore.
Wow. That, important. That's the other part of just being, not only relaxation and take a breath. It's like, okay, just really be when you feel that something's not right, it probably isn't, you know. And
Yeah,
there's something
exactly.
that's not, and
Just
follow that
really
instinct.
to trust your
Yeah.
intuition and your feelings.
I do a lot of, because I have a personnel human resources background also, I do some resume creating, and my favorite thing is reinventing people. It's like you didn't realize you had that skill and it can be applied here. But it's, you're right, it's so formulaic out there now. It's like, oh, you have to do this, and this is the question you have to ask when you go in the interview. And I just tell people, if that's not a question, you don't ask it. Don't ask it. Answer as honestly as you can. And there's a million people out there following the formula. You know, be the one who isn't. And if they don't want you, well, okay. You know, it's probably not the job for you anyway. But
Right. But at least it's you they're not wanting, not an image that you're putting on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like then you'll know. And so just be. That's interesting because when you did the card and when I'm looking at the card, I'm going, oh, it's just be, and it's like I immediately thought my goal of meditating that I'm never going to reach, but it's a goal. That's where you can just be. But you know what? It's really in how you carry yourself every minute of every day. If you just have to just be you. So. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it helps to dialogue about it also, because like sharing our thoughts about it is really opening up a lot of
see, I hadn't even,
ideas.
I agree. I had, until you said that, I hadn't even considered that part of it. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's the creativity part, you know, that's what makes you unique. So if it doesn't fit the formula, that's okay. Color outside the lines. That's what makes it fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, not to belabor the age thing, but I also find that as I get older and have more confidence.
It does weigh on your mind. Yes, it does.
And sometimes in a positive way. But I think that's the positive side also is I do care about what people think, but I care less about what they think about me.
Yeah.
And more about what I think about me.
Right, right. And I always think, well, maybe that's because we're gaining more confidence, because we've been, and not only confidence in who we are, but confidence that, you know what, I've dealt with so many things that I had no idea I would be dealing with, and it's like, and I'm here, you know, and I did it. So I think it's a combination of confidence, wisdom, and just really, you know, starting to listen to yourself. It's like, if you're not going to be yourself now, when would you? What are you planning on that?
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about when I was in 6th grade, somebody nicely told me what other people were thinking about me that upset me, and then I spent years trying to live that down.
Change it or just be it?
Well, she told me that people thought I was conceited.
Ah, okay.
So for years, I was like bending over backwards not to appear conceited. And then I finally realized, you know, this is really silly. If people are going to think I'm conceited, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to be who I am, to be the best person I can be. And I can't control what other people are thinking of me.
No, and it's like, and you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt to have a self-examination and go, was I rude? Was I conceited? Well, you know, but and then after you deal with all that, you go, you know what? I really wasn't. It's all okay. It's well, believe it or not, we've got like 20 seconds left. How fast was that?
This was fun.
This was amazing, and I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to my goal. I want to keep dialogue with you after the show, and I would encourage you to do that with other people too. Or Sharon, you can get her on her website. But thank you so much for being on the show and for choosing this fantastic card, Just Be. That's what we did today. We were just being and having a good time with it.